The weeds tonight, literally.
It seems letting the grass grow too high has caused anger and dismay to grow as well throughout the neighborhood. Dan Levy has the story.
So how would you feel if you went to visit your loved ones at the cemetery and you had to blaze a trail through the high weeds, some of them, like these, that grow 5 feet tall? At the Evangelical Protestant Church Cemetery on Crumpkill Road in Albany, where the earliest gravestones date back to just after the Civil War, overgrowth is everywhere.
Well, something needs to be done.
Christopher White has been doing work at this cemetery for 4 years.
I am into gravestone conservation, where some of the stones that are tipped over and broken, I have the skill and knowledge to put them back together. After the sale of this property just last year to a local church pastor, White says the neglect is infuriating and unacceptable. He seems to me to have a serious lack of character, and I'm being extremely nice.
I'm very worried that the property has deteriorated.
Eric Copeland, who lives in the neighborhood and says he's been monitoring the deterioration for months, would like to see the property owner hauled into court.
There's no reason why it should have been allowed to go downhill if there had been adequate enforcement at the municipal level or the property owner's level.
If and when a cleanup occurs, it will be a huge undertaking.
My Toro lawnmower will not handle this.
White says the city has assured him if the property owner doesn't take care of these weeds, they will. Not only that, they're likely to send the property owner a bill. In Albany, Dan Levy, News Channel 13.
We've been reporting on efforts by volunteers to clean up an overgrown cemetery in Albany. Yesterday, a couple came from Corinth to start the job. Now others are promising to help finish it. Dan Levy, live at the cemetery, and he's got an update. So much feel good about this, Dan.
Oh, it is so heartwarming. You're right. A lot to feel good about. Take a look at the job they did behind me. I mean, it's down to the grass. It looks like a lawn. And yesterday, the weeds were growing 7 feet high in some areas. But when 7 people from 4 area counties showed up at this cemetery today, it proved that helping others sort of runs rampant throughout the capital region, but also with a little bit of publicity, it becomes contagious. Yesterday morning, Travis Winkleman and his girlfriend Billy Riley were the only ones to show up. Today, Travis was the first one here, but the only one who began while it was raining.
Any help is awesome, whether it be for 5 minutes or 5 hours. I'll take what I can get. Late this morning, Mike Smith dropped by. He lives just around the corner and says Travis kind of lit the fire underneath him.
I'm retired with not much else to do.
Smith's other motivation was to remember the sacrifice made by the veterans whose gravestones became concealed in the high grass and weeds here.
Actually, it's an honor, to tell you the truth. When I'm going around and I see the flags and I read the stones, they can't be forgotten. Especially the Civil War.
The first on the scene with riding lawnmowers were John and Ella Edge from Claverick, who were also pressed into action by Travis.
The guy that got interviewed said kind of challenging people to give back, so, you know, one of those. We got a lot of bad stuff going on nowadays. A lot of negative stuff on the news. Let's put some of this out there.
Bill Kaniski came from Schoharie, intent on repaying the kindness that was shown to him and his family when Tropical Storm Irene came through.
I'm going to put the word out to my friends and put it on Facebook to reach out, try to get this knocked down, looking more presentable, so it's respectful to the folks that are buried here, especially the veterans.
Well, as I mentioned, it was Travis Winkleman who began this whole process, and I've been telling you about his kind-heartedness and his community volunteerism over the past couple of days. Well, you need to know that his volunteer work, his community helping spirit, is not limited to this cemetery. While Travis was driving to Albany today, take a look at what happened on the Northway this morning. The car next to him spun out of control. It rolled over into a ditch. And so what did Travis do? He stopped his car, he got out, he walked down into the ditch, and while that car was smoking, he broke the window with a rock and he dragged that man to safety. Just another day for a man who doesn't wear a cape when he helps others. Guys?
Yeah, but he sure is a superhero in both of these instances. Dan, thank you.
The grass is now starting to get long again at the Evangelical Protestant Church Cemetery in Albany. But a solution could be in the works to help the cemetery.
This is a story we've been following for you since we first got a call about the overgrown and unkempt grass back on the 16th. Throughout the following week, we found volunteers from as far away as Corinth, Schoharie, and Claverick to help out.
But those volunteers are back today, but just how long can they keep it up? Dan Levy live in Albany with the very latest developments. Dan.
Elaine, Jim, good afternoon to you. You wouldn't call them funeral plans, you might call them cemetery plans, and they are aimed at easing the anxiety of families who visit cemeteries like this. Over the last 90 minutes, I was assured by Albany city officials that they will not tolerate neglect like the extreme example that happened at this cemetery recently, and they have also assured me that if it happens again, they will step in, they will get the job done themselves, and then they will hold the property owner accountable. People are saying today, well, where was that? Why are we so late with this? It's no doubt music to the ears of the dozens of volunteers who have shown up here at the Evangelical Protestant Church Cemetery on Crumpkill Road in Albany over the past 2 weeks. Dan Shaughnessy of Colony is one of them. In fact, he's been here 5 times mowing or raking or weed whacking. And then there's Christopher White of East Greenbush. He's also a persistent and appreciated volunteer. He's been splitting his time between the cemetery landscaping and the broken gravestone restoration. Now, I haven't met a single volunteer over the past couple of weeks who wasn't happy to help restore respectability to this burial ground, even if their charitable attitude might come with an expiration date.
I just know that we want to make it look presentable for the people that come to visit their loved ones here, and what goes on in the future is is up to the city.
My hopes are that the owners of the cemetery will step up and do the right thing, and the city will help, or they will do the right thing if the present owner is unable to.
And again, as of just a little while ago, the city does have an action plan in place for cemetery neglect. I've been told that they will cite the property owner. They will give that property owner 5 days to clean it up. Otherwise, city crews will move in, and that property owner can expect a bill in the mail. Live in Albany, Dan Levy, News Channel 13. Jim and Elaine.
Okay, thanks so much, Dan. Are community-minded Good Samaritans letting an irresponsible property owner off the hook?
People are wondering about that tonight in Albany as the cleanup of the long-neglected cemetery nears completion. Dan Levy's been staying on the top of this story for weeks now and joins us live from Crumpkill Road with an update. Dan?
Jim, Elaine, good afternoon to you. You know, if I was standing on this very spot just 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't be able to see me because the grass and the weeds were growing 5 and 6 feet high here. And so, thanks to many volunteers, we have seen just a remarkable transformation at this historic cemetery from an overgrown inner-city eyesore into a relatively neatly manicured burial ground, which has restored solemnity and respectability here. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, people have been preaching to just do the right thing, get the job done here. Well, tonight, people are wondering, what is the right thing to do moving forward? With a great deal of pride and dependability, volunteers have been flocking to the Evangelical Protestant Church Cemetery in Albany for weeks. But now that the unsightly overgrowth is practically gone, guess what?
The grass needs to be mowed again. So it's an ongoing saga.
Chris White is one of the many Good Samaritans who've been showing up religiously to mow, weed whack, or rake, and Travis Winkleman was the first. He knows what Chris knows.
The grass is going to grow back, I assure you.
That's true, but the first question is, why won't the property owner do the work?
We couldn't find them.
Frank Zioli is Director of Operations for Albany's Department of General Services.
There's only so much we can do to try to find the person or to bring them forward to do what they need to do.
From this day forward, Zioli says the city will step in, do the cleanup, and then bill the property owner. At the same time, volunteers are promising to keep the place respectable.
That's exactly a catch-22.
Travis Winkleman thinks the only logical remedy is for volunteers to keep coming back.
If the guy's not paying to have it done, it's just not going to get done. So, I mean, what good's finding him going to do?
At some point, everyone's going to have to say, when is enough enough?
Have you reached that point yet?
No, not yet.
But that raises another question. Doesn't that let the property owner off the hook?
It's my good deed. If the grass is 6 or 7 inches here, you need to do something.
We were very sensitive to the fact that it is it is final resting place for people, and we hope that the owner of the property will do right by the deceased and clean it.
Well, as you can see, there's a little more work left to be done here. The volunteers who were here today told me that they would be back over the weekend. And by the way, they would welcome any help they could get. There's 4 acres of property here, 2,400 graves, and it is a massive undertaking. And whether the volunteers do the job or whether the city does the job, I am assured that this cemetery will be mowed. Live in Albany, Dan Levy, News Channel 13, Jim and Elaine.
Okay, Dan, thank you.